Good morning, everyone. In the previous class, we discussed about the different MOSFET capacitances, especially parasitic capacitances. And we saw in different modes of operation, like cutoff region, linear region, or in saturation region, the capacitor or the capacitance between the terminal that they can change, and we got what will be the final capacitances on each node or in each operating conditions, and we saw like how they can affect the performances. Now, in this lecture, we will discuss about what are the different power dissipation that can occur or that power can dissipate on any circuit, because if we are providing some supply voltage on the to the circuit, in that case there could be some probability that power dissipation can also be happen. Okay, and if basically the important thing is, like, if we are keep on increasing the or keep on scaling the technologies, like if keep on decreasing the size of technology node, in that case the chances of power dissipation becomes more, they because some of the short channel effects comes into the picture, and those short channel effect can create the problem, or they will be contributing in large power dissipation. So at the scale technology, a techniques for the power reduction is also needed, because whatever the power dissipation will be there from in the circuit, might be your battery will be drained immediately. Okay, so because if you see all the handheld devices nowadays, they are operated with the some batteries. Okay, and if your device is not power optimum or power optimized, in that case the dissipation will be large one. Okay, so in that case you have to design, you have to optimize your circuit in a such a way that the power should be as small as possible. So this is another the course on which we can discuss like how we can design low power CMOS circuits. But before we should move ahead with the low power CMOS circuit design, we should understand what are the different kind of power components that comes into the picture, especially in the CMOS circuit. Okay, so because as I already told you, the power dissipation becomes one of the prime concern, or the major issues, especially for the scale technology. So reducing the power dissipation of ICs through the design improvement is a major challenge, especially in the portable devices. Okay, so before we understand all other things, let us try to get what are the different components and what are the different levels at which the power dissipation can happen. Another important thing is the power dissipation of a chip. If the power dissipation of any chip is increasing, in that case that will increase the temperature. Okay, and if the temperature is increasing, then it can create the problem, right? So so there are maybe different issues that we need to discuss later on, but before that we should understand what are the different components for the power dissipation. Okay, so oh, oh sorry. Okay, so before we discuss the power dissipation, let us discuss about the different abstraction level of for the power dissipation. So if we talk about the power dissipation, we can have the power dissipation at the device level. So like the what are the major parameters that decides what is the power dissipation of the device? So device characteristics like the threshold voltages, device geometry, interconnect properties, these all are the significant factor that are responsible in the power consumption. Okay, so if we are designing the devices, in that case the threshold voltage we need to select, we need to choose a proper threshold voltage so that the power dissipation should be as small as possible. But yes, if we are reducing or increasing or decreasing the threshold voltage, that will also affect the delay. Okay, so because we know that the delay, threshold voltage, and the power, these are the interrelated, like delay, threshold voltage, and the power, these are interrelated. And if one of the parameter is reducing, might be it can affect another parameter. So a proper designing is needed at the device level. So the first level, it could be the devices. By changing the threshold voltage, geometry of the devices, we can change or we can alter the power dissipation of the devices. Second category we can have like at the circuit level. If I'm talking about the circuit level designing, in that case, suppose that depends on which kind of logic style we are using. Okay, we have studied several different kind of logic styles, starting from the CMOS logic, pseudo logic, past transistor logic, transmission gate logic, dynamic logic. These all are the different variety of the logic circuit which we have already studied. But we already saw, like, for the different logic styles, the power dissipation is different. So by choosing the proper logic style, proper circuit topology, we can optimize the power dissipation. So this is also one of the way. Okay, we also know that, I will discuss more about like power dissipation dependency on the VDD or the supply voltage. We'll discuss all those things. Okay, so this is how we can decide the power dissipation at the circuit level. Third one is the architecture level. If we talk about the architecture level, then the proper power management block is needed. Suppose I'm making some architecture, something like for a particular application. In that case, other than the logic function, whatever we need, we also need a block that can manage or that can optimize the power utilization or power requirement in the chip. Okay, so at the architecture level, we can reduce the power by proper optimizing the power in that particular architecture. So a separate block is needed for that particular purpose. Okay. Similarly, pipelining across parallelism can also be one of the way that can reduce the power dissipation. Okay, so these are some of the things that could be considered, especially at the architecture level. And finally, if I talk about the fourth level, abstraction level, that could be the system level. And at the system level, if I'm talking about the system, so in that case, the power of the power consumption can be optimized, or that can be reduced by a proper selection of data processing algorithm or minimum number of switching activities. So if the switching activities are less, so the dynamic power dissipation will be less. What is the meaning of this last statement which I am saying? What is the activity factor and the dynamic power dissipation? So I will tell you in 1 or 2 minutes later on, like what is the dynamic power dissipation and what is this activity factor. So activity factor is simply just like, suppose I have an inverter, and if the inverter is changing like periodically, it is changing 0 1 0 1 0 1, something like that. So the activity factor depends on what is the probability of change in the input side, okay, at any particular node. Okay, similarly, let us assume I have an inverter having a bit pattern 0 1 0 1 0 1, something like that, or like periodic pattern, and the second inverter having 0 0 0 0 0, then 1, then 0 0 0 0, and then 1. So if you see here, the probability of changing logic from one to another one is less in the second case. So if there is less activity, then the power dissipation will also be less. Okay, so how it can be decided? Yeah, I will. Yes, please.
The system level means what software algorithm, like how optimal that is, like that, or?
Yeah, so it depends on which kind of associate, like suppose you are designing some algorithm at the using high level synthesis, suppose. Okay, so in that case, whatever the architecture you are designing, whatever the system you are making, like different blocks, so you have to proper optimize with the help of proper algorithm that can, like, see, there are various algorithms that can give you the proper power data, like how much power efficient it is, what is the activity factors, and all those things. So the proper selection of algorithm, and you can design your own algorithm to reduce the power dissipation. So this algorithm depends on your application, like what kind of algorithm you want to use it. Okay. So this is what you have to decide. Okay. You got the answer, or I need to explain more?
Sir, like algorithm means, can you give an example of some algorithm like name so I can?
I need to find the name. So, but
Like algorithm means
see,
how we
suppose,
arrange these things or the
yes,
coding.
algorithm means arranging the transistors in the proper way. Like suppose I have one script that is written in a way like the switching activity factor is more. Okay. Suppose, let us assume, for example, can you hold for this 1 minute? Then, like once I will get the activity factor, then I will tell you about this one, how we can decide this one. Okay. Please wait for at
Okay,
least
sir. Okay, sir.
5 minutes, and I will tell you, because that part I will cover on that slide. So please wait.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is all about the different abstraction level of the power dissipation. Okay, fine. Now coming to the, yeah, this is all about the levels. Now if we discuss like what are the different types of the power dissipation. So in the VLSI circuit, we can have the first kind of power dissipation, that we call it the dynamic or the switching power dissipation. Okay, dynamic or switching power dissipation means if the input is switching from one logic to another logic, and there is a constant change in the input, then the circuit will dissipate some power. Okay, so that power dissipation, we call it the switching power dissipation or dynamic power dissipation. What is the what are the different parameters that decides the switching power dissipation? I will tell you in the next slide. The second parameter, that could be like short circuit power dissipation. As we know that, suppose if I have a simple inverter, okay, and the input is changing from 0 to 1. So it is impossible to make any input signal with 0 rise time and the 0 fall time. Okay, because there is some finite rise time and the fall time. So there is some chance that both the transistors are in saturation region for some period of time. And if both pull up and pull down networks are in saturation region, so there will be a direct path between VDD and the ground. And if there is a direct path, then we can consider this power dissipation. And at that time, there will be some huge power dissipation. And that power dissipation, we call it the short circuit power dissipation. Okay, so this is the second kind of power dissipation. We'll discuss in detail later on. Third kind of power dissipation is the leakage power dissipation. Leakage power dissipation means, like, suppose even if the device is in off state, but because we have scaled down the technology, some short channel effects comes into the picture, and because of those short channel effects, the device can start flowing some of the current between the terminals. Okay, so this kind of power dissipation, we call it the leakage power dissipation. I will discuss all these short channel effects, whatever we have. Okay, all these 6 short channel effects, we will discuss about those things. So in detail, we will talk about the leakage power dissipation. The fourth component is the static power dissipation. Static power dissipation means, suppose if there is no change in the input logic. Suppose I have an inverter, and if I am not changing the input, but still there may be some power dissipation. Okay, because of the reverse bias, like drain current, something like that. So, and also, like, suppose I have a CMOS inverter and I have a pseudo inverter. Okay, if you see the CMOS inverter, in ideal case, if whatever the input I am placing, like either logic 0 or logic 1 at the input side, any one of the transistors are always in off state. Okay, so ideally we are not getting any of the path between VDD and ground. Okay, so the static power dissipation, ideally it will be 0. But if we talk about the pseudo NMOS kind of structure, in pseudo NMOS kind of structure, we know that the pull-up network, which is made by, like, which we have designed with the help of PMOS transistor, that is always in on state. Now the inverter functionality that decides, that is decided by the pull down network only. Okay, now if I have a pseudo NMOS inverter, then if the input is equal to 0, then the pull down network will be off, then we will not get any path between VDD and the ground. But if the input is equal to 1, yeah, let me draw the circuit. Otherwise, suppose I have a something like this. Okay, so This is the V input, this is the output. And similarly, suppose I have some inverter, something like this. Okay, so in this case, what will happen? If we see the normal inverter, if V in is equal to 0, in that case, this will be in on state, like PMOS in on state, and this will be in off state, and vice versa for the V in is equal to 1. But if you see here, if V in is equal to 0, then the NMOS transistor will be in the off state. PMOS transistor is always in on state. So we are not getting any of the path between VDD and the ground. So ideally, we will assume static power dissipation is equal to 0. But what happens if V in is equal to 1? If V in is equal to 1, the NMOS transistor will also be in on state. Now, in this case, we will get direct path between VDD and the ground, and the static power dissipation will not be 0. Okay, so this is what the static power dissipation is. Basically, the static power dissipation, like this kind of power dissipation can happen in the non-CMOS kind of structure. Like if the logic is not in complementary, so in that case, the static power dissipation can happen. But yes, in reality, in other one, like the CMOS inverter or CMOS design can also have the static power dissipation. Suppose I have a CMOS inverter, I'm putting some logic like logic 0, so this should be on and the pull down network should be off. But because of some short channel effect, like subthreshold leakage current, which is flowing through the pull down network, that will give some sufficient path that the current can flow between the VDD and ground. So the static power dissipation will not be 0, even though if we have the CMOS kind of structure. So with the technology scaling down, this static power dissipation in the circuit, even in the CMOS circuit, can also contribute in the total power dissipation. So this is all about the static power dissipation. So yeah, we will discuss all these components one by one. Now let us talk about what is the dynamic power dissipation. Suppose I have a pull-up network and the pull-down network, which is placed something like that. Okay, if we have a structure something like this, then what will happen? If the input is changing, like from 0 to 1, having some rise time and the fall time, let us assume the on time and the off time of this the input pulses. Let us assume it is T by 2. Okay, this is the logic low time, and T by 2, let us assume this is the logic high time. Okay, so in that case, what will happen? So total time period will be T. Okay, so what will happen if the input is equal to at logic 0? Okay, if input is equal to 0, in that case, the pull-up network will be activated. Okay, pull-up network will be activated. So this capacitor CL, load capacitor, will start charging. Okay, so what will happen? So to charge up, some energy is required. Okay, whatever the like the capacitor we have, we are providing some logic, then this will be charged through the pull-up network. So some energy needed to charge this capacitor CL. Similarly, if the input is at logic 1, in that case, we need to discharge this capacitor, so some energy will be transferred. Okay, so if we calculate the total energy, like, because see, we are in one phase, we are charging up this output node to the VDD, and again in the second phase we are discharging this capacitor to the ground level. So these are the two phenomena in this if the input is changing, something like that. Okay, and considering like the rise time and the fall time are ideally 0, I'm considering for now, because if I will consider finite rise time and the fall time, then I have to consider the short circuit one. Okay, but for the simplicity to understand only the dynamic power dissipation, I'm considering the rise time and the fall time is equal to 0. In that case, if I want to calculate the total energy, then the total energy can be calculated with this formula. Okay, because I need to charge this capacitor, so C dV by dt into and then V out into dt. So this is during the first half when the input is equal to 0, And the second component is with respect to the second half when we are discharging the logic. Okay, so during discharging because the output is changing, like initially the output was VDD and we are changing from VDD to some potential. So V out factor will come over here because this V out will be decreases during the discharging path. So the overall, the energy dissipation that can be calculated with this formula. And if we try to solve this one, yeah, you can simply do it. It's a normal equations, right? So if we solve this particular expression, then you will get like E is equal to, yeah, because we do not have that much time, so I'm not writing these things, but yeah, I think that is easy to understand. So energy can be calculated by like CL into VDD square. So the energy dissipation for over a period of time, like for one time period, that we can calculate, it is the CL VDD square. Okay, and we know that power is nothing but power is energy divided by time. Like if we divide with the time period, then we can calculate the total average power dissipation. So the average power dissipation that can be calculated like 1 by T CL VDD square. Okay, and this 1 by T, that this can simply be replaced with this clock frequency of this input cycle. So this will become F clock CL into VDD square. So this particular term, whatever we have, that we call it the average power dissipation. Yeah, this is nothing but this is the dynamic power dissipation or average power dissipation in the circuit, in the CMOS circuit. So the important thing is like the clock frequency, load capacitor, and the VDD supply voltage, all these three are responsible to decide what should be the dynamic power dissipation. If the clock frequency is very high, then the probability of this dynamic power dissipation will be high. Similarly, the load capacitance can also play a major role in the average power dissipation. If the load capacitance is very small, in that case, the average power dissipation will be lower, and vice versa. Similarly, the VDD can also decide the average power dissipation. So these are some of the factors which decides like what will be the dynamic power dissipation from a circuit. But as I just told you, because the activity factor, it is not necessary that all the logics, whatever we are using, that activity factor will be same. Activity factor means the probability at which the input, the probability at which any of the node is at high. Okay, the probability that any of the node is at logic high, and based on that we can decide the activity factor. So suppose if I have an inverter, and if the inverter is the logic of this inverter is changing from 0 to 1, so 0 1 0 1, so we can decide like what is the probability of this occurrence, like logic 1. Okay, so the probability of occurrence, like if you see here, this is if the 0 1 0 1 is coming something like that, so the probability of V in to make it logic 1 is, let us assume it is 0.5. Okay, because if the input is changing periodically, then the probability of logic 1 will be 50%. Similarly, if I want to calculate the probability of logic 0, in that case I have to calculate the, yeah, let me write over here. Okay, so probability of V in to be 1, let us assume it is 0.5. 50% probability is there. Okay, I'm assuming that the input is changing like 0 1 0 1 0 1, something like that. So the probability of logic 0, that we can calculate 1 minus PV in. Okay, so simply this will also be equal to 0.5, and if we try to multiply PV in times PV in complement, and that becomes the activity factor. Okay, I will discuss in more detail. So activity factor is simply that depends on how input is changing, and based on that activity factor we can calculate the average power. So if we include the activity factor as well in the circuit, then the total the dynamic power dissipation can come something like that. We have to add some extra term, which is the alpha, which we call it the activity or the transition factor. So the transition factor is also equally important, especially in the CMOS circuit, and that decides the dynamic power dissipation. Okay, so let us discuss more about the
Hello, sir.
yes, please.
Sir, when the probability is T by 2, T by 2, that time we saw that P average is exactly F into C into VDD square, right?
Can you repeat again? Sorry.
Sir, when the period is exactly T by 2, T by 2, we
Yes,
saw
yes,
that
yeah.
the average power is exactly as we calculated now, F into CL into V square, right?
No, so you had to calculate it, like you have to multiply. Activity factor will become, suppose the probability is same. In that case, this activity factor is nothing but 0.5 into 0.5. So it will become 0.25. Okay,
But
so
sir, we
this,
just calculated na कि मतलब CL into VDD square by T.
okay, so here this one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but that also depends on, like, this is the generic, like if I am considering here a pull-up network, but that pull-up network can be anything. And based on the input, like suppose here we have a single input, then that will come something like this. Suppose in the pull-up network I have a different kind of structure, like AND gate, OR gate, something like that, then this activity factor will be changed, that will change. So the activity factor that comes into the picture, it's not like the activity factor will always be same. If the number of inputs increases, that input probability will also change. In the next slide, I will discuss all those. So please wait, then I will discuss. I will answer both the question, like the algorithm one and the activity factor, details of activity factor. Please wait, then I will discuss. Okay. So this is all about the activity factor, and that comes into the picture, especially in the dynamic power dissipation. Okay. Now let us talk about what is the activity factor. I just told you just now. Suppose the activity factor is the important tool that can reduce the power dissipation drastically. Okay, so by optimizing, like by changing the input pattern of any circuit, we can change the activity factor. And if we are able to change the activity factor, in that case, the power dissipation will be reduced. Okay, I just suppose I have a input node. Let us assume I have a node I. Okay, and at node I want to calculate the activity factor. Okay, so the probability of to be logic 1, let us assume the Pi is the probability to be logic 1 at node I. Probability for 1 at node I. Okay, so if the Pi is the probability of node I, and so simply the Pi complement we can calculate the probability for 0 at node I. Okay, in that case, the activity factor that simply that this can be calculated with the help of like 1 minus Pi. You don't need to calculate both the things. 1 minus Pi, that will be the probability of getting logic 0 at node I. In that case, the activity factor at node I, alpha I, that can be calculated as Pi into Pi complement. So this is really very important to understand what is the activity factor. Suppose in a circuit, if I have more than one input, like suppose for inverter, this activity factor will come, it will come like 0.25 if the inputs are changing equally, like 0.1, 0.1, something like that. Then this alpha I will become 0.25, and accordingly we can calculate the dynamic power dissipation. But what happens if I have a more number of inputs, more than one input? In that case, this activity factor will change. Okay, so see here, the probability of getting output will also change, like switching probability will change. Let us assume, for example, I have one inverter. Okay, I have some, let us assume I have OR gate. Okay, if I have OR gate and I have a let us assume AND gate. Okay, suppose I have two gates. So if I have OR gate and the pattern is like 0 0 0 1 1 0 and 1 1. Similarly for AND gate 0 0 0 1 1 0 and 1 1. Okay, now if you see here, OR means the output will become 0 1 1 0. Similarly, if you see here, AND means 0 0 0 and 1. If you see here, even though if both the inputs are 0, then I'm getting 0 1. Sorry, here it will be 1. Okay, so and if you see here, even though I have fixed the input and I'm changing the input something like from 0, and I'm changing the second input like 1 1, there is no change in the output. Okay, so here by this way we can calculate the activity factor. Even though we have changed the input, let us assume initially the input was 0 1, okay, for the two input logic, and now I have changed the second the first input from 0 to 1. Even though I have changed from 0 to 1, there will be no transition at the output side, so the switching probability will not be changed. Switching probability will still be same. It will give the same logic. So the switching probability comes into the picture when we have more number of input. Let me repeat it again what I'm saying. Okay, suppose I have or this is simple OR gate where this is the input A, B, and Y. Let us assume A, B, and Y. These are the inputs. Okay, for AND gate and the OR gate. Okay, now what will happen if both the inputs are 0? Then I'm getting output 0. If I have changed one of the input from 0 to 1, in that case there is some switching at the output, and that will change from 0 to 1. Now let us talk about, because one of the input is fixed now, this one. Now what I am doing, I am just changing like this input to 1 again. Okay, this input to 1. I have kept the B as logic 1 only, but I'm changing A from 0 to 1. Even though I have changed, like there is some activity factor at the input A, but the switching probability is not changing because the input is remains same, which is 1 to 1. The output is remains same, which is 1 to 1. So the switching probability is not changing. So the switching probability depends on which kind of logic I have used. Similarly, if you use XOR gate, so in XOR gate, you will get like 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay, so if both the inputs are 0, then you are getting 0. If you have changed one input like B, then there will be some switching from 0 to 1. Now, if you change the second input like this A to 1, then there will be 1 to 0. Then again, there will be probability. Now let us change this to 0, then there is again probability. So if you see the XOR gate, in the XOR gate, the switching probability is more as compared to the OR gate and the AND gate. So the switching probability can also play a major role, especially if I have to calculate the total power dissipation in the circuit. Okay, so is the doubt is clear what I'm saying? So this is all about the activity factor. Now let's just coming to the
So this
algorithm
is
part.
probability for switching of the output, right? Not of the input.
Yeah, so whatever I'm discussing over here, that I'm giving the output one, even though there is some activity factor on the input side. So see, if I have a two input OR gate, AND gate, and XOR gate, the activity factor at the inputs are same. There is no change in the activity factor. But the switching probability at the output, that depends on the logic. Okay, so the switching probability, I will discuss the switching probability just after this one. Okay, so switching probability depends on the logic function. So if you see in the OR gate and in the AND gate, the switching probability is like same. Here for three conditions, you will get 0 and 1, and opposite in the case for OR gate. But if you see the XOR case, if I'm changing the input from one to another one, then there is always a switching. Okay, the switching probability will be more at the for the XOR gate. So the power dissipation in XOR logic will be more as compared to OR and the AND gate. Okay, so this is the important term. Now the question is, what about the algorithm? Suppose algorithm is like, suppose I am designing any other circuit with the help of, let us say, assume NOR gate. Okay, And the second circuit I have designed, let us assume I have designed with the help of XOR gate. Okay, so with the XOR I am getting like the switching probability is more as compared to the NOR gate. NOR will become the opposite to OR1. Okay, so the switching probability in the NOR is less as compared to this one. And if I have designed any of the logic, any of the system or architecture with the help of XOR logic, then the power dissipation will be more. So I have to decide the blocks in a such a way that I have to reduce the number of activities by selecting a proper gates, and that algorithm can be utilized for that purpose. So now your answer is your question is answered.
Yes, sir.
Is there any doubt or
No, sir. No, sir. No.
it's fine now? Okay. So this is all
We will
about.
try to minimize XOR because switching in output of XOR
Yes,
is
yes.
more than
So
NOR.
switching probability play a major role on that one. Okay, so we have to optimize. We have to write algorithm in such a way that the XOR gate should be replaced with the NOR gate in or something like that, so that you can have the less probability of this one. Okay, something like that. So this proper optimization is needed actually. Now, I was saying like switching probability of the logic gates. So the switching probability of logic gate for the different logic gates. Yeah, this is the tabular form which I have just given. For the 2-input AND gate, the switching probability is like PA into PB. So PA is the probability of logic 1 at input A, and the probability of logic 1 at input B. So if you multiply, then that will give you the output switching probability. Okay. Similarly, if you have a 3-input AND gate, then you have to do something like this: PA, PB, and PC, where the A, B, C are the input of the AND gate. Similarly, if we have a 2-input OR gate, in that case, the switching probability at the output that can be calculated with the help of this one: 1 minus PA complement PB complement. PA, PB complement, what it means? The probability of logic 0 at the input A, and the probability of logic 0 at the input B. And if you multiply, then subtract it from the 1, and then you will get the switching probability of OR gate. Similarly, for NAND 2, you can calculate 1 minus PA into PB. Similarly, if we have to calculate NOR 1, then it will become the PA bar into PB bar. Okay, so for NOR, it will be like PA bar into PB bar. So this will become the switching probability for NOR 1. So the important thing is, like, suppose I have a circuit. Suppose let us consider simple circuit, and then let us try to calculate what is the switching probability. Okay, let me rough some of the portion from here. Okay, as we know that, yeah, let me finish this statement. Okay, let us assume I have a circuit something like this. And let us assume suppose like this. Okay, and let us assume initially I'm assuming that the probability for logic 1 at A, B, and C is, let us assume, 0.5. Okay, the 50% probability is there for A, B, and C to be 1. Okay, so in that case, what we can calculate? We can calculate what is the probability, switching probability at this point. Okay, what is the switching probability and what is the activity factor of this one? Similarly, based on this one, that the output, switching probability of the first one, that will become the input probability for the second input of this NAND gate. Okay, and B, like what is the whatever the probability of logic 1 of B is, that will be the input probability, and accordingly you can calculate the switching probability of this AND gate. Okay, and then once you are ready with the switching probability of this NAND gate, that will become the one of the input probability of this AND gate, and similarly the output of this NOR gate, that will become the input probability of this AND gate. Okay, so the switching probability of one of the logic or the previous stage logic, that will become the input probability. Okay, and accordingly we can calculate the overall switching probability at the output. Okay, so this is very simple, like you can just simply calculate by, if you know the numbers, if you know this, like what is A, B, and C, and what is the input probability, and accordingly you can calculate the switching probability at the output of each gate, and then that the switching probability can act as a input probability for the next stage gate, and so on. After calculating step by step, you can get what exactly the switching probability of output is. Okay, the switching probability of output, that can be calculated by this way. Okay, and this is really very important, like the switching probability of output, that decides what is the power dissipation, or how we can decide the power dissipation or the dynamic power dissipation. A proper optimized circuit, because we know that any of the logic can be implemented with a different way. Okay, and if we are designing with a different way, might be the output switching probability will be different. Okay, so the output switching probability will be different, and so we have to design the optimum circuit that will give the same logic, but the output switching probability will be less. Okay, so this is really very important to this is the importance of activity factor and the switching probability of the logic to overcome the total or the dynamic power dissipation that is flowing through the that will dissipate through the circuit. So you got the things what I'm saying. This is really very important, like the switching probability of any logic is really important. Let me repeat it again, how to do that, because you know the input signal probability. Okay, input node probability for node A, node B, and node C. Okay, now based on that you have to calculate the output probability of the first stage. From the left hand side you have to calculate it, output probability of the first state. Now I have to check whether that circuit is connected to any of the other gate or not. If it is connected, then the output or the switching probability of that gate will become the input probability of the next gate. Okay, that will become the input probability. Then step by step just solve it, and you will get the switching probability of the final output. Okay, so this is how it could be done. So try to solve this circuit. Let us assume the A, B, and C, the probability of logic 1 is 0.5 for all. Then try to calculate the switching probability P of Y of this circuit. Do it at home in case of any doubt. Yes.
Probability of A कितना होगा इसमें? 1/3 होगा ना?
Which probability?
Probability of A.
No. See, probability of A is not like this. Like suppose the probability of A means the A is changing like this. Okay, B is also changing like this. C is also changing like this. What it means? The probability of all the inputs are 0.5.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so it will not be divided. It depends what is the input pattern which we have given. If I am changing the input pattern, let us assume the B and C are something like this only, but A is like this. I'm assuming the time period is same. Okay. Okay, so 2 times it is on, 2 times it is off, and 1 time period is on. So here now we can say it is like the probability is 1/3.
Yes, sir.
Now the probability become 1/3.
Sir, what will be the output probability of NOT gate?
Yes, because NOT gate has simple output, so the output probability will be like it will be same, just like whatever we have, because it will, like, as input will switch from 0 to 1, output will switch from 1 to 0. So the probability will be same as the input one.
Sir, it will be PA complement, right? Because
it will be so it's like if we have the same
PA.
so if we have the same kind of the pattern like 0 1 0 1, then it will be same. But if the like the probability is the different, then it will be opposite, because output here the input is like 0 then 1, so the output will be like 1 and then 0. So if you see here, the output probability will be become 1 minus alpha I, 1 minus AI, or PA, sorry, 1 minus P of A. Okay, so this is what the output probability is. Okay, so you got the things, or I need to explain more details? I think the points are clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so based on that, we can calculate the output probability of each node, and then we can calculate the total switching probability of the circuit. So yeah, this is really very important actually, because if we are designing any circuit, so to estimate which of, like, see, any of the function can be implemented with a different way. And if I'm implementing any circuit with a different way, might be it will give the same logic, but the switching probability will be different. That depends on the logic, whatever we have used. So it's not like all the circuit whatever we have designed that will work perfectly, and that will dissipate the equal number of power. No, it is not true. So while designing any IC, you have to calculate the switching probability as well, because output is giving the same output, but might be the switching probability will be different. So we need as small as switching probability that will give you the proper impact. Okay, so this is the importance of activity factor and the switching probability. Now the next thing is, let us consider the short circuit power dissipation. Okay, what is this short circuit power dissipation? Second kind of power dissipation is the short circuit power dissipation. Suppose I have a simple inverter circuit, something like this. Okay, and if the input is changing from 0 to 1, 1 to 0, and yes, in the previous slide we considered like the rise time and the fall time are 0. Okay, for the approximation purpose, but in reality it is not 0. But now in this case, like if I'm considering the short circuit power dissipation, in that case, rise time and the fall time, I'm assuming that it is finite, it is not 0. Okay, so there is some value for the rise time and the fall time. If this is the case, so yeah, this is the rise time and the fall time, which is the finite one, not the 0 one. So suppose if I have the input something like this, in that case, I'm assuming the output I will observe something like this one. Okay, I'm just assuming the delay is equal to 0. Okay, for the simplicity, but yes, of course we need to shift this the output waveform a little bit. That depends on the delay of this logic. But for now, I'm considering that there is no delay in between input or output, and the input and output will be inverted. Okay, so for the simple inverter, if this is the case, then there may be some level VDD minus VTH. We know that the NMOS transistor can start. It will turn on after the VTH and both the transistor. Like, see, so these are some of the reason on which both the transistors are in the saturation region. One domain is this one. So in between VTH and the VDD minus VTH, we will get both the transistors will be in the saturation region. And if both the transistors are in saturation region, there will be, because both the transistors are in on, sudden current will flow from this circuit. Okay, so one current will flow, and at the time when both are crossing to each other, or at the maximum when the input and output are touching at the VM of the inverter. VM is nothing but this is the switching threshold voltage. Okay, so the switching threshold voltage at this time will get a sharp peak, or the maximum current that will flow between the VDD and the ground. Okay, so this is what, yeah, initially I'm assuming like before this one, the switching power dissipation will be less. Like the current switching like short circuit current will be less, but at the point of VM, the short circuit current will be maximum, and then we call it the I peak. Okay, yeah, important thing is the range on which we will get the spike of this current, like short circuit current, that will be in between the VTH and the VDD minus VTH. This is only because after the VTH, the transistor will be in on state. So that is why you can consider, like, because to make the transistor in the saturation region, you have to increase the input more than that should be the VTH. Okay, so the switch, the condition for the saturation region can happen in between these one. So the power dissipation or the leakage or the short circuit current that we can observe between these two regions like VTH and the VDD minus VTH. Okay, so yeah, so this time is known as like TSC. Okay, so so this point we need to consider, especially if I am talking about the this one. Okay, so this simply TSC that represents the both the transistors are in conducting region. The time period on which the both transistors are in conducting region, that time period is the TSC. Okay, if you see on the left side here on this side, the time period from 0 to 100%, because there is some rise time and the fall time. If you see on the right side, I have considered the voltages ranges between the VTH and the VDD minus VTH, and the time period between these two values that we are talking like both the transistors are in the conducting region, and that we are calling it the TSC. But if you see the left diagram here, the time from 0 to 1, that we call it the TS. Okay, so TS is like the transition time. TS is nothing but this is transition time from 0 to 100%. So this transition time depends on the rise time and the fall time. If the slope is less or higher, in that case this transition time will change. Okay, so accordingly we can decide, like if I'm changing the rise time or the fall time, this TS will also change. So TS is nothing but this is a transition time between 0 to 100% value. Okay, now let us try to interrelate all these parameters whatever I just said here. Okay, so this TSC can be calculated with the help of TS, what is the transition time over here, and this is like VDD minus VTH minus VDD. So this is the complete voltage range. So VDD minus VTH, that we'll get like VDD minus 2 VTH and divided by the total voltage whatever we have. So based on that we can scale down this TSC with the help of this TS. So this TSC, now the important thing is, like suppose if I want to reduce this peak one, okay, if I want to reduce this ISC, so what I have to do, I have to reduce this TSC. TSC should be as small as possible so that ISC can be reduced. And if ISC is, we are able to reduce this ISC with the help of this TSC, then the short circuit power dissipation will be less. Okay, but the important thing is how we can reduce this one. To reduce this one, I have to increase the threshold voltage somewhat upper, higher side. If I am increasing the threshold voltage, might be this range will be something like this one. So this overall value will reduce. VDD minus 2 VTH will reduce, and VDD minus 2 VTH will reduce, then TSC will reduce, so the ISC will also reduce. So the ISC, like short circuit current, that is the factor of the TSC, and TSC depends on the threshold voltage. So by changing the threshold voltage, we can reduce the short circuit power dissipation. This is the one parameter. Second parameter is we can also reduce this TSC by changing the threshold voltage. So the threshold voltage, by reducing the threshold voltage, you can change this TSC. But important thing is that the VDD is at both the places, numerator and the denominator. Let us assume I have fixed this VTS and I am reducing this term. Okay, so you have to calculate like how the TSC will function. Okay, so you have to find the relation between the VDD and the TSC. Okay, I will take 2 more minutes, then I will finish this short circuit power dissipation part. Okay, so let us consider the Kn, which is the mu CoX W by L process parameter for both the PMOS and MOS transistors are same. Let us assume for the simplicity, what I have considered, like Kn and Kp is equal to K, which is the process parameter, and this process parameter is nothing but this is the mu CoX W by L. Okay, So if the mu CS W by L for both the devices are same, okay, so I'm assuming that Kn and the Kp are same because we have matched both the devices, both NMOS and PMOS transistors. So I'm assuming that the K is equal to Kp is equal to Kn, and also I'm assuming that rise time and the fall time both are same, and that is approximately that is tau. So in that case, the short circuit current can be calculated with this formula: K tau f clock divided by VDD minus 2 VTS power whole 3 1 by 12. I'm not going into derivation of this one, just direct expression I have just written over here, and with the help of this expression you can calculate this ISC. Okay, so I just told you like VTS that decides like what is the ISC. So VTH becomes the important component, and the VDD becomes the important also the important component to decide the ISC. So the ISC depends on this K, this rise time and the fall time, clock frequency, the VDD, and the VTH. Okay, so and accordingly, if I want to calculate the short circuit power dissipation, then the short circuit power dissipation will be simply I have to just multiply this current with the voltage, and then that will become 1 by 12 K tau f clock VDD minus 2 VTS whole cube. So this is nothing but this is the short circuit power dissipation. And if I have to calculate the energy, then energy is nothing but simply just by multiplying the TSC, because we are already considering this short TSC, which is the when the both the device are in the on state. So by calculating this thing, we can calculate the energy. Yes.
So tau and TS is same, right?
Tau and TSC, no, they are different.
No. Tau and TS.
No,
So,
TS is like rise. What is the rise time?
tau is also rise time, right?
No, 10% to 90%, like from 10% value to 90% value, that time we call it the rise time. Okay,
Sir,
you have
tau is 0.8 times TS.
Yes. So tau here is 0.8 times of this TS, because we are considering 10% to 90%. This is how we can calculate the rise time. Similarly for the fall time from 90 to 10%. So tau here is 0.8 times of TS. So yeah, you can also calculate like this TS can be written in terms of the TS as well. And this TS can be written in terms of the TSC as well. So these all are interrelated. So this is all about the short circuit power dissipation and short circuit energy. I'm closing the session here only.